Hello?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, what's going on?
Oh, hey. So yeah, I think just to pick up on what you were talking about, there's actually a really great book by a Catholic turned atheist turned Muslim called Even Angels Ask. And it gets to the heart of your question. I think the thing is, there are, obviously many people have different beliefs, and so we're not going to necessarily agree, even if you have the same faith. But from the Muslim perspective, we believe that there are three Abrahamic faiths that, and the way that we reach God might be a little bit different. And a lot, I think geopolitics today makes like Islam and Judaism feel different, but actually Judaism and Islam tend to be quite similar, that we tend to follow the law. And you all,
Y'all
to my
don't even follow the
understanding,
same law though. Like for example, you
well,
guys can eat shellfish, Jews can't.
so there's going to be different, even within sects within the same religion, people don't necessarily agree, right? Within Christianity, within Judaism, within Islam. But the Quran describes it as this is a book for people of logic, and I think that's a difference between like coming at things through love versus logic. So I think that's one different frame.
Hey man, you're right. Not coming at things through logic in Islam. You're right.
So no, so I mean, as in Islam does come at things through logic. Not it's not because and to get to your point about like corruption, sin, etc. So in Christianity, my understanding is that because of the original sin in the Bible, then all human beings like fell along with Adam and Eve, and you have to accept Christ in order to be uncorrupted, is what I was understanding from you.
Yeah, you have to accept Christ and he has to take
So
on flesh.
right, and so for us, we don't. We believe that. So when going back to that book, even angels ask, in the creation story in the Quran, when Adam was created and the angels were asked to bow down to him, the angels who were perfect, even they kind of hesitated, being like, "Why would you create this creature who will shed, will basically just do all the things that you're describing, like be corrupted, etc." And in the Quran, what it says is that, I know things that you don't know. So we don't actually understand why it is. But to me, as somebody who's Muslim, the beauty of it is that my religion tells me that I was not born into sin, I was born into purity. And that I have, at every step, I have a choice to follow do something that's right or do something that's not right. But I also can be in constant communication with God to find the right path. So we're told to stay on the straight path, the middle path. And even though the word jihad is usually assumed to be like violent war, it's the jihad is up with your spirit on a day to day, moment to moment basis. How do you stay on the straight path?
Yeah, the issue is though in Islam, in your hadiths, in your own hadiths, it says though that um what was written for you before you were born actually decides your actions, not yourself.
So I think there's multiple levels of understanding. So there are going to be people who are illiterate who need to be able to understand religion, and they're going to be scholars. So I think that taking anything that's, whether it's Christianity or Judaism or Islam or Hinduism, and assuming that the most basic, simple explanation is the only explanation, is probably not like true across all times and people. So for instance, like one translation that I follow says, like, it says fear God. That's true in a lot of religions, right? So do you fear like, oh my God, I'm going to be punished and physically harmed? Or do you fear in terms of like, you love God so much that you wouldn't want to cause disappointment in somebody you love?
Number two.
Right. So that's the different levels of understanding of the same words.
Yeah, what is that? But there's only one that's true though.
Not necessarily. There's a saying that the sign of intelligence is being able to understand two things at the same time. Things are contextual, things are change, obviously overtly right or wrong, certain things don't change, but the vast majority of life is about having the wisdom to know when to apply the law in what way.
Yeah, but doesn't it say though in the hadith that women have a deficiency in their minds?
So again, you're taking everything. So a hadith, so similar to the Bible was not written down until like in some cases centuries later, right? Hadith also, when people, so It depends on the context, and it says in terms of the eyes of God, we're equal in terms of our souls.
But if we're
For
equal, why
me,
does it say that a woman's witness is half that of a man?
yeah, I mean, I don't have an explanation, but I do know that I can divorce a man, I can keep my own name, and I can keep my property. So
But your
between
mind's never gonna be as efficient as his though, because your mind is
so
deficient.
the thing, so you are so again, the hadith is not the Quran. And the hadiths have their multiple hadiths, and there's a whole science to understanding the
What
hadiths.
about when the Quran says that you could strike your wife?
And so tell me the context of that.
Yes,
Give me
the
the
context is if you fear your wife to disobey you. It says
so
that
and then tell me also that does a woman in Christianity, is she equal to a man or is she
yes,
below a man?
yes, she's equal to a
No,
man.
really?
It literally says that they become one flesh. So yeah. So why does it say in the
So she
Quran that you
loses
could?
her identity. So if she
No.
gets
Who says they
married,
lose their
yeah, one
identity?
flesh. Can she
Okay,
divorce
if
him?
you're gonna say that, then also the man also loses identity. So that's fine if you want to say that.
But who can own property? Who owns whom?
Nobody owns. They don't own each other.
What is the purpose of the wedding ring?
The wedding
It
ring
was
is
it
it's a symbol to show that you are married to each other.
What was the original, and was it for both men and women or only the woman?
It was for both men and women, always in Christianity.
I'd love to come back after we both read things, because from what I understand, the wedding ring was only the woman. The father walks her down the aisle to, quote, give her away because she is property, and then she cannot, and if she had a divorce, she has to change her name. So in Islam, I keep my name. Whatever property I might have before marriage, I keep that. My husband can never touch
But
it.
he can strike you when you're married, right?
If he wants to like tap me on the wrist,
No.
fine,
He
but
can
he cannot
strike you.
strike my face.
It says
No, so
that
you
you.
no
It
no no
literally
no
says
no,
you could strike.
absolutely not. You don't. I would, if you go back. So first, tell me, what is the hadith number?
It's not a hadith.
Who
It's in
was
the
the narrator?
Quran. It's in the Quran.
No, absolutely. So no. So the thing is that, so give me specifics about it. What
Surah
is
Al-Nisa.
you're saying hadith?
No, I'm talking about the Quran.
Where in the Quran does it
Surah
say? So give me the
Al-Nisa.
exact verse.
Surah chapter 4, verse 34.
Okay, so read it to me.
All right, fantastic. Let me go to it. Men are in charge of women by right of what Allah has given one over the other, and what they spend for maintenance from their wealth. So righteous women are devoutly obedient, guarding in the husband's absence what Allah would have them guard. But the wives from whom you fear disobedience, first advise them if they persist and forsake them in bed, and then finally strike them.
Strike them how? Give me the specifics.
It
So you
just says
take an
to
axe and
strike them.
So what, strike can be anything, and if you go to the explanation,
yeah, I
it
can
says
go to the explanation.
it says with a toothbrush and not on the face.
No. It literally says if you go to Abu Mahuadi,
So
it says to
So
beat them.
you just read to me
I'll
a
show you
sequence of
tafsirs.
things.
I can show you tafsirs. The
I
tafsirs literally say to
what
beat
I'm
them.
saying. So who is tafsir? This is what I'm saying. This is a religion for people of logic. There are scholars.
Yeah, I'm showing you the scholars right now. The
Are you
scholars
a
say to beat
scholar,
them. No,
though?
I'm reading to you the scholars. The scholars say beat
I
them.
understand, but there's more than one scholar. If you think in 1400 years there was one scholar, then we both need to read and come back and have the conversation.
I can show you multiple. I can show you like 10 scholars right now that agree with what I'm saying.
But it sounds like you're skimming rather than understanding.
No, I can show you all of these scholars. Like I can read you everything they say.
But okay, let's focus on the fact that you gave me a sequence of events. Did it say strike the woman, or did it say this, then this, then this, then this?
Yes, it said. It said first you should basically tell them to stop, and then you should refuse to have sex with them. And then after that,
all happens within 30 seconds, or that happens over 2 weeks?
It can happen within as long as it wants. You should never strike your wife in any case scenario.
And there's nothing. So are you gonna tell me there's nothing in the Bible? There's nothing in any preacher that's ever said to strike your wife?
No.
Really?
No, you should never strike a woman ever.
Well, I mean, personally, I wouldn't marry a man who would strike me.
Okay, well then you're not going to marry a man that follows the Quran.
Not at all. Just because there's a marriage contract that a woman has to agree to, and I can put in that contract this is, or I will divorce you.
Why would
Can
you
a
put that in
Christian
the contract though when Allah said it was okay to do? And that's actually a command of Allah.
because Allah gave me a contract, so that holds him accountable.
But why would you not want to follow Allah's command where it said that you could
Because
strike
Allah
them?
gave me a contract, and therefore I have the right to say this is what
Should
is
you
the
follow his
legal.
commands in that contract?
Yeah, absolutely. If he gave me the right to a contract, then the contract is binding. So I
Okay.
don't think you
Is that
understand a woman
okay
who is
to do that?
empowered.
Okay, but I'm saying, is it okay to
If
allow a man to hit you?
if it's like if it's a miswak on the wrist, yeah, it's symbolic then.
So you can just hit your
Assume
woman
if
with a
you're gonna
toothbrush, whatever you want.
if it's a miswak on the wrist, then that is symbolic. But I would encourage
You gonna let your man hit you like he a child across the wrist?
I would put it in my contract that he won't. I wouldn't marry
So
a man
you would
like
put
that.
in your contract that you must not follow what the Quran says when it says to strike.
No, this is a straw man argument. If God has given me a contract, then I can negotiate with my husband and I can divorce him.
But does the Quran command that men should strike their wives on the third time?
The Quran says that there is a man and a woman. There is a hierarchy. I'm not denying that. But I mean, in the United States, until 1988, a woman could not open a business loan without a male.
What does the United States have to do with anything?
Those are based on Christian laws.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Okay, so then where in the Bible is a woman, what is a woman's right to divorce, to her own property?
Yes, if adultery was committed, she can divorce.
Okay, so read me that passage as well from the Bible.
Yes, it's going to say divorce is not permitted unless adultery. All right, let's see. Matthew 5, but I say that everyone who divorces husband or wife on the ground of sexual immorality makes him or her commit adultery.
So meaning that if you divorce, you're committing adultery.
If you do, no. If you divorce, unless in the case of adultery.
Okay, and what if a husband strikes a woman? Can she divorce him?
If a husband strikes a woman, yeah, we literally have counsels for that.
So, but where in the Bible does it say that?
We have it in the counsels. So, for example, there's things that can happen, like even beyond hitting someone. If your husband is doing vile things, for example, to children or something like that, you can go to the councils. We have councils where you can ask these people, a council of priests and bishops, and they will allow you to divorce based on certain situations.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so and where in the Bible does it say that these councils exist, and what sect is that?
In 1 Timothy, where it says you must follow the traditions that are outside of the scriptures, or outside of the... Let me go to it. All right. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 15. Therefore, brethren, stand fast and hold to the traditions you have been taught, whether by word, so that would be the traditions, or by epistle, which would be like the Bible and the writings.
And so what sect are you?
I'm Eastern Orthodox.
Okay. And then how do you think about the fact that there's different sects, right? There's like evangelical, there's Catholic, so how do you think about if they're on the right path or not on the right path?
It depends. If they're on the right path in terms of core beliefs of the Trinity, but in terms of other things, then they wouldn't be on the right path. It just depends.
So how does somebody know if they're the right kind of Christian or not?
By going back to the first few centuries of Christianity, see if their views line up with that.
But the first few centuries, things were not necessarily written down, right? Because the Bible was written at different times.
The first few centuries, so we literally have the Didache, which is the first century, which is the teachings of the apostles.
So, and the teachings, so they formed the Bible, or like when was the Bible as we know it now?
The Bible the Bible, the actual epistles were written in the first century, and they were put together into one text in the 4th century.
All of them? All of the apostles?
Yeah, there was literally nothing, no epistle written after the 1st century. I
mean, that's not what I understand, but again, I'm not I didn't come like I was scrolling, so I didn't come like prepared to have a like long theological argument. But what I would say is that um, the primary, so going back to the primary thing that got me to come up was essentially a difference between, I think, original sin and needing to accept Christ in order to be saved versus a constant sort of like struggle that is a pious struggle to stay on the straight path, and knowing that you are loved. Therefore, if you make an error, like even right now, if I made any kind of error, then and as I said while we were talking, like I want to go read, right? I want to go educate myself. I might be wrong about things, right? And so to me, that is the essence of Islam. Again, I might be wrong.
And you might be wrong about Islam too.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things I could be wrong about. And that's why I love the fact that, to me, what draws me to faith is intellect.
How does intellect draw you to faith though? When the hadiths themselves say you literally have a deficiency in your mind.
Well, I mean, again, a lot of these, you'd have to take things. So I think people who want to have these conversations will cherry pick. We're both, I'm in the United States. I don't know where you are. In this country, women are bleeding to death because they're told that it's sinful if it's between the life of a child and the life of them, that they should die to save the child. There are other religions that prioritize the life of the mother, right? So I think that there's going to be differences. But to me, for instance, as a woman who has a uterus, I like the idea that my life means something, is valuable.
Does your life mean more? Does your life mean more than your child's life?
Well, that's a good question. So does a child mean more than the mother? So
I'm asking, is your life more valuable than any other life?
If in certain religions, if there are young children, then yes, the adult who takes care of the children is prioritized over the.
So your life is more valuable than your child's life.
So you're saying that a child's life should be more valuable than mine?
I'm saying they should be of equal value.
Well, you have to make a choice. If you can only pick one.
So I'm just asking you. I'm asking you, are they of equal value?
Well, and sometimes medically you have to pick one or the other. So which one would you pick? Would you pick the child or the adult taking care of children? You have to pick.
Yeah, always in medicine, there's always a percentage chance that the child can still live through birth. So I would choose to have the child through birth, and ultimately I would leave it up to the wife.
And does the law in America currently do that?
Leave it up to the wife? Yeah.
No, it doesn't. You're not allowed.
You think it leaves it up to the man?
It leaves it up to the government, actually.
No, the government does not tell you whether or not that. What? No.
I would.
Please show me the law. Please show me the law that says that the woman is not the one to decide in the term of whether or not who is going to
Even
live.
The doctor is not the one to decide. Ever since the overturn of Roe v. Wade, the doctor is not allowed to decide.
So how exactly does the government decide?
So essentially, they will, if a doctor were to do something that was perceived as ending what was a lawmaker, not a doctor, decides is a viable pregnancy, then they can remove the doctor's license. They can accuse the doctor of like manslaughter, a whole bunch of things. And these things have already happened in the last year. Where they have even across state lines. Like there was a case where a child was assaulted, resulting in a pregnancy. The child was I think the child was like 10 or 12. I'd have to go back and look at the details. And in that case, that was different. Actually, that was not life in danger. That was a different category.
So I'm asking, the question is, do you think that a baby in the womb is a human that has equal value?
A clump of cells? No, I do not.
So
it depends on what stage. Are we talking? So a baby technically has to be born.
So Allah didn't breathe his soul into that womb during conception.
There is an age at which, so day one, when the woman hasn't even realized she's pregnant. No, that has not. It depends on what stage. So at this point, when I'm speaking right now, I'm not speaking as a Muslim. I'm speaking more as somebody who's
So you
worked
just
in
change? You
these.
just change from your
Yeah,
religion depending
yeah,
on what
because
topic?
what I am not, because when it comes to other people's lives, I don't impose my religion on them. When I'm talking about laws and laws that are inspired by, so I think there should be separation of church and
So
state.
you don't believe that if you unalive a pregnant woman should be double homicide?
I think that's so pregnant, like 5 days pregnant or five
What's the cutoff?
months
What's the
pregnant.
cutoff?
It depends on the state, right? I think that it
What
really
should the cutoff
depends.
be?
That's a really good question. I haven't figured that answer out yet.
I'll
I don't
go.
know.
Well, yeah, I would try to go figure that out. Maybe talk to God because this is crazy out here, man. We saying I'm only gonna be religious when it matters to me.